Welcome back to the 7th grade mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about the Bluetooth PIMPHAND. The Havana syndrome is a set of medical signs and symptoms reported by the United States and Canadian embassies and their staff that were in Cuba on December 17, 2017. Blaring, grinding noise jolted the American diplomat from his bed in a Havana hotel. He moved a few feet and there was silence. He climbed back into bed. Inexplicably, the agonizing sound hit him again. It was as if he'd walked through some invisible wall cutting straight through his room. Soon came the hearing loss and the speech problems, symptoms both similar and altogether different from others among the 21 other American citizens that were in the building at the same time when it happened. So there's a article in the New York Times, September the 1st, 2018. Some 9 months later after this happened. And it spoke about the Cold War and how Washington feared that Moscow was seeking to turn microwave radiation into covert weapons of mind control. More recently, the American government itself sought to develop microwave arms that can invisibly beam painfully loud booms and even spoken words into people's heads. The aims were to disable attackers and wage psychological warfare. And now, doctors and scientists say such unconventional weapons may have caused the baffling symptoms and ailments hit more than 36 American diplomats and family members in Cuba and China. The Cuban incident resulted in a diplomatic rupture between Havana and Washington. The medical team that examined the 21 affected diplomats from Cuba made no mention of microwave in its detailed report published in the Journal of American Medicine in March. But Douglas H. Smith, the lead author and director of the Center for Brain Injury and Repair at the University of Pennsylvania, said in a recent interview that microwaves were now considered a main suspect and that the team was increasingly sure the diplomats had suffered brain injury. Now, a growing number of analysts cite an eerie phenomenon known as the Frey effect, named after Alan H. Frey, an American scientist. Long ago, he found that microwaves can trick the brain into perceiving what seem to be ordinary sounds. So, what we're talking about is nonlinear warfare, unconventional, non-traditional warfare waged through technology.
I think what it is, people love to discount these smaller nations as if they're not on the playing field. Don't fall for that shit. Of course, Cuba had contact with Russia back in the day, but still, don't think that those weapons don't exist. They're still experimenting on weapons. We had talked about this in a past podcast, infrasound, which are ultra-low frequency waves. If you ever get a chance on the Discovery Channel, Future Weapons, they had an episode called The Brown Note, where they believe that if the right low sound hits your body, you'll shit yourself. And the government experimented with that shit. They really spent a bunch of money researching that. So there's a possibility of microwaves being weaponized by a country or by a foreign power, and we're just not aware of it. And since you're not aware of it, you wouldn't know what to look for. The whole brown look, we're using ultrasound right now, ultra loud sound for crowd control, things like that. But like I said, if something's been weaponized and we're not familiar with it, of course it could be used on our citizens. And now they're trying to figure out the effects. But the bottom line is, for whatever reason, those people left. That might have been just designed to make them leave, or worse, maybe it has another effect. Maybe it makes you forget some shit you've seen. Maybe it's a big-ass neuralizer, and you don't realize it.
So you mentioned the Brown Note. There was a band back in the day called Tab, T-A-B, like the soda pop drink. And they would tune their bass guitars so low when they would pluck certain notes that people would shit themselves. There's all types of reports about people who went to these concerts and shit their pants subconsciously or involuntarily. So that's an example of how it's been used outside of the realm of warfare. But here is an interesting coincidence that event in Cuba happened on December 17th, 2017. One day before that, in the same newspaper that reported that, the New York Times, that was the day that they released the story about the Tic Tac UFO incident that happened in 2004 or near the USS Nimitz in the Pacific Ocean. So strange little coincidence how both of these fringe stories are back to back like that. I just thought that was odd. But what I noticed though, the reason why I noticed this, why it stands out, is because both of these stories have been released right the week before Christmas, 9 days before Christmas, where everybody is in this type of like mental fog, where they're wore out from Christmas shopping, or they're like beaten down from just the congestion of traffic that builds up around the malls around that time, or around shopping centers at that time, the depression that people are like they're overcome with around that time. You're in this mental fog, you're asleep, and you're not paying attention really to what's going on around you. So you can put these stories in there and they just slip under the radar. Well, the Tic Tac incident did anything but slip under the radar. And then the Cuba incident, where they call it now the Havana syndrome, it's called Havana syndrome. And the Havana syndrome story did not fly under the radar as well, and people were all over that, and just blew up even more. But let's go back to electronic harassment. Electronic surveillance is another form of electronic harassment, and as technology advances, surveillance devices are getting smaller and more discreet, which is bad news for targets of electronic harassment. Now, these people that are these targets, they're referred to as TIs, or targeted individuals. GPS tracking devices and video or audio recording mechanisms, which used illegally and without the target's consent, can be used for electronic harassment. Now, these TIs, or these targeted individuals, are who the government or the military intelligence complex has picked out to harass, assault, and attack with advanced forms of invisible electronic weapons. Now, in 2015, there was the Covert Electronic Harassment Conference that was held in Belgium. And it was a human rights conference to create awareness on the covert harassment of civilians, which used the non-lethal weaponry and organized stalking. So that's another term you might hear come up again, is organized stalking, also known as gang stalking. Now, gang stalking is what has been reported as groups of people, or people who belong to intelligence or government agencies or government contractors, who are hired to harass people in groups. For example, a person will go to the Blimpie or a sandwich shop, and they'll sit down to order some food, and they sit down to eat the food, and they notice that a group of guys or people will come in and sit down across from them and behind them, not order anything, and just sit there and watch them. And then that person gets up to walk out, and these people get in their vehicles and proceed to follow this person around the city to different locations, and then to sit outside their homes. There's even been...
Have you ever been surveilled before?
Have I?
Yeah, I mean, that you know of course. Every black man has. You know.
No. I'm not talking about police.
Yeah, I dig it, but I'm just saying. But
listen. My phone has been tapped before, for sure.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, dude, you and I, before we even created this show, the shit that we talk about.
5 incidents where we couldn't get along.
At least 5. And that's being conservative in your estimate.
Yeah, I know that. I've been surveilled by private investigators before. I didn't see it, but the only way I found out was
somebody told you.
Yeah, my coworkers were like, "Hey, duct tape. These guys keep coming in here asking me about you." You know, I used to bounce at a strip club for years. And so one of the girls hurt herself, and so she had to work the front door. And so when she starts telling me the story, I brushed it off at first until she's like, "Hey, no, they've been coming in here for weeks, a couple of weeks looking for you." And I'm like, "What do you mean looking for me?" And so I said, "Well, what's up?" She said, "Well, the reason I'm saying something is because the names they gave me, now that, because she broke her leg, so she had to work the front desk. And she said the names they gave me are not the names on their IDs when they come in here." I said, "Well, what's going on?" She said, "Every time these 2 dudes come in here, they tip me $500, and they ask me, hey, we work with duct tape." And, she said, "Okay, cool." But then she said it got strange when every time a black guy would walk in, they would say, "Hey, is that duct tape?" She's like, "Well, if you work with duct tape, you would know what they look like." So I called a friend of mine that used to work for the FBI. He said, "Hey, you're being surveilled." He said, "Those are private investigators." So I called a lawyer that me and you grew up with, and that lawyer let me know, like, no, I don't work in that department, but I know people. I'll find out. Well, that my lawyer, homeboy, you know this dude. He called me back and was like, "Hey, yes, you're being surveilled. This is who's in charge of it. Get the hell out of Dodge. Stop working there." So, this is true. I was being charged with FMLA fraud, and they were saying that I was leaving my regular job going to work another job, which is not true. But
yeah, that's a corporation that hired private investigators to follow
correct.
you. But hang on a second. It's fair to say that they were somewhat justified in hiring these people to go and surveil you. That really isn't. That is not the same as electronic harassment.
No.
That's gang stalking.
Yeah. No. I was giving an example of people that don't think that you're going to spot it yourself. The only reason
that's not true, man. That's not true. Let me give you an example. You asked me earlier if I've ever been surveilled. Yes. As you started to tell this story about these private investigators, the same year that you came down to visit me for the first time, it happened. I'm not going to say under what circumstances, but I'm going to tell you it happened before. And the crazy part about it is it was so obvious, and I'm like, oh, but see, okay, this is the funny part. They didn't see me watching them, right? Hold on. I got to go into this some more because I know how to lose a tail. When somebody's following me, I'm good at losing them. I've done it before. And
that's weird and sporadic.
No. But we're not gonna go into all that shit right now. It's just like you know what I mean?
That's just you. That's your normal routine. You don't have a normal routine.
Ninjas do ninja things. That's all I'm gonna say. So I'm gonna tell you, man. Like I was able to figure this shit out. I was able to lose the tail, and then watch these motherfuckers, and they were terrible. They were terrible. It was an old black dude with glasses, and like. He did not fit in. This was in the hood too. He didn't fit in where he was. He didn't know how to like look natural. You know what I'm saying? Like even him looking, pretending to be natural did not look natural.
Look. There's a couple of things that people don't know. I spoke to an FBI agent once, and the reason it took so long for them to infiltrate the Crips and Bloods is because he said you can't. He grew up in L.A. He said the only reason I was able to infiltrate is because people in that hood knew me. People don't understand. You can look natural, but you don't always look like the people that actually.
That 21 Jump Street bullshit don't work.
No, for you to be in certain areas, you've got to have a backstory, and they gonna verify. Now, back to like my situation. The reason I'm bringing it up is because, like I said, when you spot them or not, one time I felt uncomfortable because I saw the same car 4 times in one day. I live in a big city, but a smaller city. And it could happen.
No, man, but no. But you know traffic patterns in that neighborhood.
Dude.
Hey, hold on. Yeah. And the crazy part, okay, was this the old house?
No. This is one of the times, because you know me, I can literally drive 50, 60 miles in one day because I'm all over the place.
Yes.
I was all
But you also like to drive, though.
Depends on which car I own. Like when I had the Beamer, I used to drive for the sake of driving. but that's also how I realized that I had no direction. Do you understand what I'm saying? I had no destination. I was simply driving, had my music on, and I was relaxing.
You were just living.
Yeah. So there's no way I should have seen the same SUV 4 times. I wasn't shopping. I wasn't going to Berlin. I'm just rolling. And so when I saw that, I'm like, okay, somebody is interested in my movements. Like I said, going back to one of the stories we were talking about earlier, there's so many times that people, it's one thing to be paranoid. It's another thing when it's true. You dig?
Okay, but check this out, though. The playing field has elevated. So now they really don't need a person in a car to follow you because they have drones now. And the fucked up thing is nobody looks up.
When's the first time I saw a data scrubber, I contacted you. I'm like, dude, I saw a UFO. And I chased it down because I told the story. I was about to beat up my neighbor, and he's like, "Hey, what is that, cuz?" I'm like, "Yeah, right." I look over, and I'm like, "I don't belong there." You know the area. It's near.
Yeah. You went to the specific area that we know really well,
Yeah.
and you followed it over there.
No, I couldn't follow it. It was stationary. I went to where I thought it would be, and I was correct. It was floating. It was there. It was a data scrubber. It's some type of drone that goes up and down, and it monitors your information. It monitors the entire area.
But it also vacuums information up.
I'm sure it does.
No. It does, because if you've ever had a phone that would turn off and turn on, that means your information is being vacuumed up. I've had phones in the past that would do this. They would just turn off and then turn on, or they would start acting strange. But see, I wasn't the only person that experienced this. There were other people in the vicinity that also complained about the same thing happening. And the crazy part about it is they were on different cell phone carriers.
Hold it. There's something I want to stick out there that there's a lot of misinformation that we take as true, because we all watch the Discovery Channel. There's so many different investigations. There's so many different channels we watch where they talk about government weapons or the government tried to do this. If you pay attention, Dick Gregory broke it down once, but here's the deal. How many times have you heard, well, the government experimented with this, but it left that alone? Yeah, right. One of the ones I remember, we talked about this a long time, I don't want to reiterate, but remember they talked about having that gay bomb. I remember being in high school, and they had a little snippet. The government tried a gay bomb, but it abandoned its research. And then fast forward like 20 years, Dick Gregory breaks it, and he said, yeah, in the 60s they tried to do a gay bomb.
But what makes you think they stopped working on that? So, okay.
What makes you think it didn't? What makes you think it didn't? Hold
it. Dude, you got straight black men walking around with their booty sticking out of their pants, with tight jeans on. The gay bomb worked, man.
What? There's two things.
The crazy about hold on. This gay bomb, it was extrapolated onto a social experiment, and it was put into things. It was put into music. It was put into television. It was put into social media. It was put into things that you would see and you would not resist. So yeah, that gay bomb worked, man. You got all these dudes wearing pink. Hold on a second. We grew up knowing that blue is for boys, pink is for girls. Two straight guys talking. Yeah. Now, hold on a second. All of a sudden, Cameron and the Dipset motherfuckers start wearing pink and shit in these fucking videos in the early 2000s. And I'm like, what? Why are you wearing pink, dude? What is this shit? And then you have NFL players wearing pink for support of the Susan B. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation, which is found to be a fraud because she was stealing the fucking money. Okay, suspect. And then I'm watching football last weekend, and all the photographers and the ball boys on the side got pink shoes on. Like, whatever. As I say, that gay bomb worked, man, because it's a lot of straight dudes with gay tendencies nowadays. And I'm like, look, man, if you're gonna live in that lane, or you're gonna be in that lane, you're gonna live in that world, do it. Do it. Yeah, but don't send out confused fucking signals to other fucking straight people.
Calm down, Pimp C, calm down. But look, there's a couple things. So I'm putting it out there. If the government ever experimented with that, that means they know what part of the brain to stimulate to create homosexual behavior. Maybe that's something that nobody wants to talk about.
Or frequency to send out.
Exactly. I was going to Once they decide,
so they send out this subliminal message: "You gay as a motherfucker. You gay as a motherfucker. You gay as a motherfucker."
And here's what people don't want to get is that suppose that the reason they quote unquote abandoned the research is because it didn't have the desired effect. They thought that if you're going to war and you drop this gay bomb and everybody's gay, they're going to start fighting and start fucking each other, and that other side will lose the conflict. It didn't work. They found out that you drop this bomb, they're gay, they still keep fighting.
But hold it. Think about what you just said. They'll be fighting and fucking each other. What is going on in America right now? They fighting and fucking each other.
See, like I said, I think what they thought would happen is that the battle would just cease and people would start fucking. That's not what happened. People are fucking and fighting all the time now. But and if you pay attention, the people in power still are winning. But Right now, they're all over Dave Chappelle for transgender, this, that, and other. And all Dave was saying, like, I wanted to talk about it last podcast, and this is more appropriate for this one. When you talk about Bluetooth pimping, when you talk about these are terms we use, but pay attention to Dave's third special on Netflix, the bird syndrome, the bird whatever it is, and he talks about iceberg slim and pimping. So when we talk about pimping, there's a reason we use those terms, because a pimp keeps his hoes in check whether he's there or not. He creates a situation where that hoe will fear him and do her job, even though he ain't nowhere around to keep her in check. That's where these terms are coming from. That's what we're trying to explain to you. So now you got Dave who said, I ain't a hoe. You can't pimp me. I'm not worried about cancel culture. And he's sitting there talking about the LGBT community. And they're like, we're going to cancel you. First things first, my brother Bob, is what was the Black Justice League? What is it, Superman and Wonder Woman?
No.
The Black Justice Council.
Some coalition that started in 2006. This shit's barely 15 years old.
The Black Justice Coalition. So they have a black name, but obviously they're more worried about gay issues than anything else. Very, very, very similar to Black Lives Matter. Now, here's my issue. If you got a problem, if you're the Black Coalition, how come you didn't complain about Dave Chappelle's Black?
But who is the money behind that is what I want to know. Who is funding that shit?
I dig it. But
Marxist, communist organization.
Let's just talk about the optics. So you're worried about him talking about trans, and you're not worried about him talking about black people. Obviously, you don't give a fuck about black people. Change your name, motherfucker. You're not the Black Justice League. Stop with this. You're not Superman. You're not Super Nigga. You're not Wonder Bitch. You understand me? Number two, Dave, he was very eloquent when he was making points, and y'all still didn't hear what he was saying. He said, let me ask you a question. How a rapper, the baby, he killed a man in a Walmart parking lot, didn't kill his career, but he hurt the feelings of a gay man. All of a sudden, his career is over. How does that work? See, you're not understanding what he's trying to say. And again, I said it on the other podcast, so I'm being clear. He's saying that my movement has been around longer than your movement. How come your movement caught traction? Now, we already said, like I said last time, it's about the money. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you sit here and we talk about Bluetooth pimping, we're telling you they're using technology to pimp you. They're using technology to make you scared to be yourself. They're killing any revolution or revolutionist before they get started by saying, hey, if I can hear you, hey, your phone is a listening device, hey, your broadband internet can hear you, your modem can hear you. And so now every movement is now stifled because you're worried about somebody hearing it. Well, the idea of being a revolutionary is letting the government know that you exist. Stop being afraid. And these things are put into place to make you question everything, and your paranoia be bigger than your desire to be free. Fuck that shit. So when you sit here and we tell you, we use these pimp terms because we use them tongue-in-cheek, it's humor. But you got to understand, those pimping terms are real. Pimps, you do this shit. So the government has become a pimp. I'm in labor, and right now, do you know why big business can crush labor? Because they took our playbook. Do you know why the Democratic Party is fucking over all these poor people? Because the same thing they did to black folks when we talked about it in the past. They parade the same 2 or 3 niggas around whenever there's an incident, or they bring you to Washington and they shake your hand, and they glad hand you, and they got that from fucking with us. Like, hey, Senator Moynihan figured out it's called benign neglect. We talked about the shit. So don't think that this shit is by accident. And when it comes to this, we talk about they're using technology, and don't think for a second the Cold War is over. Yeah, the Cold War is over, but the tools still exist. They didn't just like, oh, we just scrapped this shit. We don't use this microwave technology no more. Nah, my nigga. And if they can sit there and do that shit where you can't sleep and you think you're going crazy, you'll go crazy for real. And all of a sudden, anything you say after that, once you've been died. So here's what happens. So they use that microwave technology on you. They happen to do it in Cuba, where all these journalists recognize, hey, something's strange. When I lay in my bed, it feels like I'm on a football field. But when I walk over to the dresser, I'm fine. Cool. They're lucky. But can you imagine that shit if you were at home and somebody did that shit to you? You'd fuck around and go crazy. Then you get diagnosed, but then all of a sudden you try to release your story about the government fucking these little kids. Oh, he's crazy. He's on medicine.
Okay.
They discredit you.
Okay. So there's more. These targeted individuals are being electronically stalked and harassed with what they call DEWs. And there are direct energy weapons, also known as scalar weapons, EM weapons, and non-lethal weapons. They blast the victim's head with electromagnetic radiation. These assaults can insert voices into people's heads, which they mistake for their own thoughts. What did I say a couple weeks ago? You are not your thoughts. And these weapons can induce severe negative emotions such as depression and suicidal thoughts, and can even cause paralysis and death. Sadly, many targeted individuals are thought of as crazy and sometimes are thrown into psychiatric wards for just speaking out publicly and exposing the truth of how they are being assaulted. There's a NSA former employee who's now a whistleblower. Her name is Catherine Melton Stewart, and she became a targeted individual after she learned how the U.S. military intelligence agencies were involved in 9/11, but how her superiors told her to keep quiet. And she was verbally abused and shouted at before a polygraph test so that she would deliberately fail the test. She was blocked from promotions, she was gang stalked and harassed. She also had her house electronically bugged, which knocked out her microwave. She agrees that the technologies like V2K, which is voice-to-skull technology, are real. She reveals how the NSA stalks and harasses journalists who become too scared to report anything negative or at all on the NSA. Interestingly,
Hey, explain that V2K technology when you get a chance. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, so voice-to-skull technology is how they're using microwaves or subsonic frequencies to beam audio inside your skull. And so they've attuned a frequency which allows it to, what they'll do is they'll point it like a gun, and this narrow beam goes right at you. So basically, it's someone that has an apparatus that looks like a 50 cal sniper rifle, and they're probably across the street from your home, and they have this rifle pointed with this sonic beam that can probably, and they have a scope in there that can probably see the infrared signature of you inside your house, and they're pointing it right at your head. So that's the voice-to-skull technology. But Catherine Melton Stewart reveals how the NSA on multiple occasions has done the same things to other individuals. But interestingly, she highlights how the mass shooter, Myron May, who killed people at Florida State University in November 2014, was another targeted individual mind control victim who told many people before the mass shooting how he was hearing voices. And then he was killed.
Of course.
So,
look,
okay.
That's crazy.
So this guy is a Manchurian candidate, basically. He's a TI, a targeted individual, and a Manchurian candidate all in one, and a martyr. Boy.
Look, in the black community, we just, 3 years ago, had the death of Nipsey Hussle, and everybody in the hood says that's an inside job. How does this guy, who's a gang member, kill Nipsey, leaves, and runs to a insane asylum when the cops are waiting there for him? If you're looking for an example of this shit, this voice, or he was schizophrenic, he was hearing voices, he was this. How did the cops know he was going to be there? Just watch that news story. If you're looking for an example of a modern-day Manchurian candidate who might have took out somebody for political reasons, and don't think the LAPD has known for doing this. So that's an example. Read the article. See when this guy, how he turned himself in. See how they had 9, 10 cops waiting for him to go to this insane asylum. Why did he go there? Was he conditioned there? That kind of thing. So
check this out. So there's a book called Mind War, and it was written by an NSA employee. His name was General Michael Aquino. Michael Aquino was a known Satan worshiper and pedophile. In this book, it details 19 atmospheric electromagnetic activities. The human body communicates internally by electromagnetism and electrochemical impulses. This EM field displayed in Kirlian photograph, which is like those aura photographs, the effectiveness of acupuncture and the body's physical responses to various types of EM radiation, such as X-rays, infrared radiation, visible light, and so on, are all examples of human sensitivity to EM forces and fields. Atmospheric EM activity is regularly altered by such phenomenon as sunspot eruptions, gravitational stresses, which distort the Earth's magnetic field. Under varying external EM conditions, humans are more or less disposed to consideration of new ideas. So your mind is malleable under the exposure to EM fields.
Certain conditions, yeah. Certain
Mind war should be timed accordingly, though, because, quoting Dr. L.J. Ravitz, electromagnetic fields construct and add fuel to the assumption unifying living matter harmoniously with operations of human nature, an expression of the electromagnetic field no less than living systems. And as that points to on the spectrums, that these two entities may at least take their positions in the organization of the universe in a way both explicable and rational. A tenable theory. Hold on, wait. A tenable theory has been provided for the emergence of the nervous system, developing not from functional demands, but instead deriving as a result of dynamic forces imposed on cell groups by the total field pattern. Living matter has a definition of the state based on relativity of the field physics, through which it has been possible to detect a measurable property of total state functions. So what Dr. Ravitz is basically saying is that through the manipulation of electromagnetic fields, you can make the mind flexible and suggestible, but you can also affect the cellular functioning of the human body through the disruption of this magnetic field.
No, what he said is super deep. What he's saying is that, yeah, this one doctor saying you can manipulate people and you can use it against people in an evil way, but also this shows that there is a connection between you and your environment that's greater, and that when you talk about harmony and all these other things, it's some real shit. It's talk about your body must be in tune with your surroundings, or it talks about you in the greater universe. That's some real shit.
Check this out.
So
the next part is the ionization of the air. An abundance of negative condensation nuclei or air ions. They're ingested air by ingesting this air, it enhances alertness and exhilaration, while an excess of positive ions enhances drowsiness and depression. The calculation of ionic balance of a target audience's atmospheric environment will correspondingly be useful. So, again, this is a naturally occurring condition caused by such varying agents as solar ultraviolet lightning, and rapidly moving water. Like when you go to the river or you go to the ocean and you feel good, you feel like you're renewed. It's because of all the ions, the charged ions in the air, and they're refreshing the cells in your body with a positive electromagnetic field. So that is from the ion effect, published in 1977 by E.P. Dutton. Now, one more. This is also from Aquino's book.
Look,
Extremely low frequency waves. This is what we were talking about earlier with that band, that rock band Tab, and the brown note, how they're tuning their bass guitar to a certain level, playing that certain note to make people shit themselves. That's ELF. Now, ELFs, they are anything below 100 hertz and are more naturally occurring, but they can also be produced artificially, such as for the Navy's Project Sanguine for submarine communication.
We talked about this before, just giving an example of naturally occurring. We all know about dolphins and porpoises using ultra frequency. We all know about that. But did you know that elephants and hippos communicate ultra low frequency? Hippos communicate with ultra low frequency.
Okay.
There are animals.
Okay. There are animals and there are mammals that communicate with ELF. And one cryptozoological animal that people often cite of having ELF experiences with is Bigfoot and Sasquatch. Now, people often talk about how it's like they were walking in the woods and then all of a sudden it's like they stepped into jello. It's as if time has slowed down and it was hard for them to move. That's ELF. That's extremely low frequencies. So
Now, the whole thing is, you got a lot of white folks saying Bigfoot and UFOs go together. Don't know if they do. Now, I'm not saying they do. But what I'm saying is that there are animals that use ultra low frequency naturally, and that phenomenon is real. Just because you didn't know about it, don't mean it didn't exist. So we're putting that out there that that shit is naturally occurring. We're also putting out there that your body reacts to outside stimulus. Sometimes ultraviolet. We can't see that spectrum, but it still affects us. So we're telling you that, hey, it can be used in a bad way, but it also can be used in a good way. So you get your body in tune with your environment, and you'll see what can happen. Stop thinking that people can't control you outwardly, and that's what this whole thing is about. And now, it's even easier when you subject yourself to bullshit. When you lower yourself to, hey, I'm on social media all the time. But we all know that little flicker of that phone is addictive. That light, that's been proven too. Before we even had cell phones to the level that we got them now. When your eyes focus on that light like it does, that is some hypnotic shit. There are studies about that. So when we say this shit, look it up. We're not doing this shit to,
not for shit and giggles. No.
Yeah, we're not doing the conspiracy theory shit. We're doing the
fact. This is fact, and these are agendas. That's what's going on.
And you got to see how it's being used on you, or you're being sucked into it. And like I said, we use these pimp terms. Look them up. Go watch the movie American Pimp. Go watch.
That pimp hand is strong on them hoes.
Yeah. Hey, go watch the Max. Go watch these movies. Even Dolomite, because you got to understand is that these tendencies, these tactics can be used on a geopolitical level. These tactics can be used in the real world, because pimping is the real world. So don't misunderstand me. But remember when Goldie was telling Richard Pryor, like, hey, man, what makes a woman go out and give her hard-earned money, spend her last dime, sell her pussy, and give the money to a man? He said, I don't know. I don't know either, but that ain't me. Shit, I'm not like them niggas. What they're saying is that the rules don't apply to the pimp. The pimp don't have no rules.
Okay.
And that they'll do what it takes to get what they want from you.
All right. So ELF waves are not normally noticed by the unaided senses, yet their resonant effect upon the human body has been connected to both physiological disorders and emotional distortion. Infrasound vibration from 20,000 up to 100 hertz. So from 20 hertz to 100 hertz can subliminally influence brain activity to align itself to delta, theta, alpha, beta wave patterns, inclining an audience toward everything from alertness to passivity. Infrasound could be used to tactically as ELF waves endure for great distances. Infrasound could be used tactically as ELF waves endure for great distances, and it could be used in conjunction with media broadcasts as well. And that is from The Cycles of Heaven, and that was published in 1978. So I have court cases to cite. Yeah, I brought the ammo today. I have court cases to cite that correlate directly to this harassment. So there was a court case that recognized electronic harassment in 2008. It was December 30th, 2008. Again, right around the holidays when nobody is paying attention. And so this is actually very impressive. Guy, his name was James Walbert. And
Walbert?
Mm-hmm. And so he persuaded the court that the defendant was using electronic weapons against him and his family, in addition to resorting to obvious forms of stalking. He substantiated that his claim with the DOD documentation and had support of a security specialist who proved that electronic frequencies were involved, and it would appear the support of a couple of police officers. He also made use of letters from Missouri Representative Jim Guest. The outcome: the defendant failed to show up in court. That was the guy that was harassing him. The defendant had to pay all legal fees, and the defendant may not employ third-party means of reestablishing contact with Mr. Walbert. Now, Mr. Walbert filed his complaint on November 25th, 2008. The court decided the case on December 30th, 2008. Although this will probably may not protect Walbert in the long term, he has obtained the first court-based acknowledgement of the existence of electronic weapons and of electronic harassment that anybody knows of. So, there's another case. In Wichita, Kansas, April 20th, 2009. A Wichita inventor claimed he was attacked by direct high-energy microwave weapons and was victimized by covert organized stalking and targeted by highly advanced forms of electronic harassment and was granted an order of protection against one of his assailants, according to a Sedgwick County District Court ruling. After reviewing a petition filed by victim James Walbert, Judge Terry Pullman determined the case should be weighed on its merits, and a hearing was scheduled before the judge, James Beasley. In the end, Walbert prevailed. So Walbert is this Wichita, Kansas inventor that we're talking about. But Walbert's evidence included declassified government documents and photos and scientific data, attesting to his authenticity of land-based and satellite-based direct microwave weaponry. His proof included a radiation forensics report concluding Walbert is being targeted with obscure microwave frequencies. And to show he is not the only victim of these crimes, Walbert provided a letter from the Missouri State Representative James O. Guest corroborating that his office had recently investigated an estimated 300 complaints of electronic harassment and organized stalking. 300 complaints. That's just in 2008.
Listen to the evidence. It said obscure microwave frequencies. So what they're saying is there's regular microwave frequencies. You turn your microwave on your cell phone. But there's other things in that genre,
dude.
Other things in that realm that aren't normal or
Listen to this.
Average.
Listen to this. Jeremiah Redford, 27, also of Wichita. The two men discussed Redford's marketing of Walbert's invention of an antimicrobial sanitary seal for 12-ounce aluminum beverage cans. Redford failed to appear at the December 30th, 2008 court hearing to defend himself. When the business deal went sour, I was threatened that I would be shot with jolts of radiation, said Walbert. A few days later, I was attacked in my home with a continuous stream of electrical current running through my body, which causes headaches and artificial auditory effects, including electronically generated tones, popping, buzzing, and ringing sound in the ears. These are some of the same complaints made by employees of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow, Russia, in 1976. They are being attacked by Soviet KGB microwave weapons, according to former Secretary of the State Henry Kissinger. Even Illuminati cat was like, yo, they on some bullshit.
Look. Yeah, game, recognized game, huh? So Kissinger like, hey, shit, I've seen this before.
James Walbert had a good case. And
they're all good cases. They're all solid cases. Yeah. Being the fact they're in the same state, Wichita, Kansas, or Missouri, those states are side by side. So again, speculation, please forgive me. This is me talking. But if they were to use a satellite to harass these guys, they could use the exact same satellite. They wouldn't even have to, employ a lot of work. These guys are in the same general geographical location.
Check this out, though. Check this out. This is what the judge had to say. Ultimately, the court ruled in Walbert's favor. We are acutely aware of widespread credible reports about terrorizing tactics of electronic harassment and the increasing new phenomenon of clandestine vigilantes known as organized stalking, said Derek Robinson, the president of the FFCHS in Cincinnati, Ohio. The organization is a committee to expose, end, and outlaw these atrocities. Robinson is a Navy veteran formerly assigned to the NSA as a linguistic expert. He has become a targeted individual in 1982, shortly before he was honorably discharged from military service. In 2008, Representative Guest said that he was slated to meet with U.S. Senator Edward Kennedy of Massachusetts to discuss concerns about electronic harassment. However, the meeting was indefinitely postponed after Kennedy was diagnosed with a brain tumor. That same Senator, Edward Kennedy, in 1975, was an outspoken member of a committee that investigated the CIA's infamous MK Ultra mind control experiments. They involved drug hypnosis, electronic torture, radio frequency, neural contact with unwitting human targets, some of whom are Vietnam War veterans, now suing the United States government. The White House and Congress denounced the CIA and banned further mind control experiments. Yet many published reports claim the testing never stopped, and now the technology has been perfected. Evidence of that is detailed in 1992 federal lawsuit filed by NSA whistleblower who contends that the land-based and space-based technologies can now isolate a person's individual neural frequencies and can remotely connect to the brain. Wow.
Again, Bluetooth PIMPHAND, invisible PIMPHAND. What they're doing is that they're intimidating people. And people, since this shit ain't not being physically touched, it's hard to prove it. You'll even doubt yourself.
That's the crazy part. That's the crazy part about this, is that it makes you doubt yourself. It makes you doubt your own sanity. And there's people that around you that would think, this motherfucker's going crazy. Nah, bitch, he's under attack, and you can't see it because it's technology that's been perfected by covert intelligence agencies that it's their trade craft to remain covert and attack people covertly.
This is what they do, yes, hiding in plain sight. Look, you know, I'm a Christian man. So when they tell you the devil's attacking somebody, do you think he's just going to sit there and be obvious with the shit? Do you think, like, you're going to see somebody with pitchforks and horns walk up and start fucking with you? No, this shit is subtle. And it's a cumulative effect, and it keeps bothering you until all of a sudden you try to lash out and defend yourself, but there's nobody in front of you to defend, and you try to tell somebody, they think you're crazy. You go to the doctor, hey man, I got real fucking symptoms, but they don't know what's causing it. This shit will eat away at people, and this is how they eliminate the competition. Like I said, they're killing any revolution before it starts because they're killing the revolutionaries. This shit is real, y'all. Just for the record, there are crazy people. They're just crazy for the sake of being crazy. There are people who are going through shit that ain't got nothing to do with it.
Oh, yeah, but those people that are collecting checks, though. These aren't the people we're talking about. Yeah, we're not talking about the people you see downtown, because every crazy person wants to go downtown and put on the show.
And
that ain't it. Yeah, that ain't it.
But pay attention to, these are politicians and these are reporters or these are inventors. They're people who can disrupt big business or government. Politicians, Kennedy had a brain tumor. We all know microwaves will cause brain tumors. This other guy invented something, and it probably would have fucked with the status quo. These other people are journalists. Pay attention. These journalists who are real journalists, I saw a video. I was in Vegas on work recently. They had a video from Atlanta, Georgia, where this news reporter goes into a hotel, finds out. I don't want to get it wrong. ALC, whatever. It's an organization that basically bribes your local officials, and in Georgia, excuse me. And all these senators and congressmen are meeting at this hotel. So he barges in. So what that tells you is that reporter makes you know when he gets a brain tumor or he's going through something because he fucked with the government. He fucked with these people, and that's some deep shit. So yeah, dude, this shit's real. They're stopping us from questioning anything. They're intimidating you into submission.
Okay. In this episode, we discussed a lot of different things. They're all related to electronic harassment, but there's different forms of it. It exists on different levels. There's a bill that they are attempting to pass in the House and the Senate now. And this bill will allow the government to go and examine the contents of your bank account if you have more than $600 in your bank account. Now, let's think about this for a second. During the pandemic, they were giving out $600 or more to people. Why this number? Why 600? Why that magical number? Why not 400, not 500, not 700? Why 600?
Yeah, why not a million? Go ahead.
Reparations. But listen, so once they have access to your bank account, they can go in and out whenever they want to because they're the government. But all they're telling you is you're going to give us the permission to do this. And listen, to let demons in, darkness into your house, you have to invite it in. It has to be invited in. So by allowing them to pass that bill, you're inviting the government into your bank account. See, they'll do it already without telling you. But now they just want to make it official. They want to make it a law. They can go into your bank account and they can take whatever they want. They can shut it down. They can look at it. They want to get all up in your guts. Okay? They want to get all up in your guts psychologically, financially, physically, through shooting things into your arm that have graphene in it, that can build scaffolding for later upgrades. It's not the end of this. It just, there's levels to it. And so people need to understand that organizations that are in the back controlling things, deep state, people who work in government that have been there for a long time, these people that are not elected into these positions, that are Michael Bolton has been in Washington for a long time. Nobody elected him to these jobs that he's in. He's appointed, not elected, appointed. That means somebody that's been elected gave him the job.
Give him the job.
That's right. So all this nepotism and shit like that, these clubs, these groups. See, we live in a society that is controlled by not one group, but by several groups. And there's an umbrella, and there's so many groups under this umbrella, and it's compartmentalized. So that when you say the government's fucking with me, the government's putting voices in my head. Well, 98% of the government has no idea what you're talking about. But that 2% does. And they're the ones that's doing it. And the monies that's behind them is dark money. And the power behind that dark money are people who worship the dark arts. And these people pray to fallen angels. And these people worship darkness. And it comes in all different forms. It could be Saturn worship. It could be these Saturn death cults. It could be groups that are separated into smaller secret societies. It's compartmentalization. And so when people cry out for help, they're like a baby just crying out. It's like a child who doesn't even understand words and speech yet. They're just making noises. That's how you sound unless you're armed and you know who your target is. Because they know their target is you. And they know how to get right inside your head and dial in what to say because they studied your phone and your patterns. And so they hacked into your phone. They got all this information about you. So they know where you are, what kind of sandwich you're going to eat, where you're going to get it from, who you're fucking, what your kinks are, what kind of weird porn you like. They got all that shit. So now they got all that information. They got this profile on you, so they know how to target you and what to put in your head. You know what I'm saying? You might be some motherfucker that likes to, hang yourself or tie a rope around your neck and jack off. So right before you put the noose around your neck and you got the palms greased up, now they're in your head saying weird shit. And you just think it's organic. Oh, it's just in my head. That weird shit's in my head. Dude,
or you think you're sick.
We just sat here for an hour and told you that Intelligence agencies have perfected mind control. And we have just presented documents, court cases that support this. We're not fucking crazy. We're not making any of this shit up. This shit is real and it's happening. And if you want to continue to bury your head in the sand with your booty sticking out, well, you're going to get fucked. And you will continue to get fucked because you want to stay asleep, because you don't want to smoke. You don't want no problems. Because you like your little, you like going to your spider hole and watching Netflix and having food delivered for you straight to your house. You have given them everything about you to fight you and suppress you with. Go ahead, man.
Please, listen to my brother. There's something that people don't get. Stop being that person. I'm a union rep. Y'all heard me talk about this shit. Stop being that person that only cares when they care. Look, the only time these motherfuckers call me, how many of these motherfuckers out here don't go to church? They fucking womanizing, they're fornicating, they're doing all the shit in the Bible you ain't supposed to do, but then all of a sudden they get cancer and they're, Father in heaven, please cure me of this cancer. That's what's happening. You got people who don't care until they care. You got people who don't give a fuck about any of these stories, any of this information until it directly impacts them. But you need to be smart enough to know that the second it touches one American, the second it touches one human being, it touches all of us. And stop letting these governments convince you that you're not big enough to stop this roller coaster or stop this steamroller from happening, because you are.
Bro, the first, when I found out I was being surveilled, the feeling that I got was like when Neo took the red pill. It was like, oh, okay, this shit's real.
No. I know you. You got excited. Like, come on. It was a challenge. Somebody issued a challenge.
Oh, no. Trust me. 100%. 100% it was a Joe mission. 100%. But there's that part of you that's like, oh, yeah. Because you know what? At that time, I passed through another threshold. I passed through another gate. There was something had changed in my life. And that was the acknowledgement is that you're at another level now. Everybody, you're all at another level now. You don't even realize how many gates you've passed through without knowing that how many gates you passed through with your eyes closed.
Elevated. Yeah, you elevated. You're not counting. You're not keeping score. You got to keep score. Because once you look up, you realize, oh shit, I'm winning by a lot, or I've passed through another level to a gate.
But the crazy part about it is, y'all a bunch of Cliffords. Like Dave Chappelle said in his most recent comedy special, y'all a bunch of Cliffords. You get this big ass creature, and you letting these little motherfuckers get in your head.
We want you guys to recognize the real, and when we use, like I said, we use terms and pimp. It's tongue-in-cheek humor, but the subject matter is serious. You know, sometimes you don't recognize what you're going through because you think you're going through it by yourself.
Look, the Bluetooth pimp hand is a concept that I came up with on a job one time. And I was laughing and talking shit. I was working in this office job. And I would laugh and talk shit with, like, the women in the office and shit. And one of my homegirls, like, you know, we would do this pimp hoe thing all the time, just joking around. And I said, you know what? Even when I'm not here, that pimp hand is pointed at you.
I'm here, baby.
I said, my Bluetooth pimp hand works when I'm not even around. And she just started laughing. And that term has always been in my head since I thought that shit up. And I'm like, I started to also think about, like, other ways it applies in life. And this is it, man. This electronic harassment, this MK Ultra 5.0, it continues. It's a Bluetooth pimp hand. It's that pimp hand that's flying around and it's pointed at your ass. And you don't even fucking realize it. And you're getting just smacked around.
Look, hey, just pay attention, y'all, and stop thinking you crazy just for wanting better or recognizing that this ain't right or calling somebody on their bullshit. You know, in that Bluetooth pimp hand, the fact that you're in somebody's head even though you're not there, it's like a joke grenade. I'll crack a joke and somebody will call me like, hey, dude, that was fun. How you going to call me 15 days later? That's what that shit is. That's that disconnected voice. And just make sure it's yours. Make sure they're your thoughts before you execute and act on them. That's all we're asking.
I'm going to tell you like this. The way you defeat the Bluetooth PIMPHAND is with awareness. That's the only way. Awareness and mindfulness. You have to stop giving out your information. You have to start clicking no on those websites when they ask you, can they use cookies? You want a cookie? This cookie, this sweet little cookie, is us letting you use the website, but we want to keep tabs on you. That's a PIMPHAND. Stop doing shit like that. Delete your browser history every day.
Look,
you know what? Delete it every time you open the browser. Whenever you finish surfing the internet, delete your browser history. Delete the cookies, delete all that shit. Okay, hold on. I'm not done. Also, what you need to do is turn your phone all the way off. Take your battery out of your phone, if you can, when you want to have a private conversation. If you can't do that, put that phone in between the mattresses under a pillow. Wrap it in some tin foil and stick it in a blanket. Okay? Create your own little Faraday cages. There's companies out there that sell Faraday cage wallets. That the RFID chips in your
I got one.
Okay. The RFID chips in your wallet, on the credit cards and bank cards can't be scanned or read while it's in this thing. There's also Faraday pockets for your phones, so it can't send signals in and out. Make yourself inaccessible to anybody at different points in your life. And it might be once a month, maybe you do that. But practice this. Practice disappearance. Disappear technologically. If you're going to go to a state park or something, leave your phone in the pocket. I want to take pictures. Okay, then bring a camera. Bring a dedicated camera and take pictures. No problem. But make yourself inaccessible from technology and the network and anything that can track you to where you are. That's all we're talking about.
Hey, stop calling the same person crazy, because by you doing that, all y'all who dissing Kyrie Irving because he won't get a shot, he does not have to. Now, thank God this nigga ain't broke. Now, if he was broke, because that's what's happening to these companies. A lot of people who make under $100,000 a year are being told they got to get the vaccine to work someplace, and I'm like, that's not fair. But what they did was they flipped the script. They said it's a condition of your employment. They're not hitting you with no medical shit. They're hitting you with you like, hey, if you want to be in this building on private property, you got to. So.
Well, okay, then that's cool, but I'm going to need a religious exemption.
Don't go. Long story. I'm banning this shit right now. I'm banning that shit right now because what the lawyer told me was, well, you got all the other vaccines. Why won't you get this one? And you're the only two religions they're recognizing are Mormon and Seventh-day Adventist.
Well, you've just converted. Congratulations on your conversion.
Yeah, dude, I'm dealing with it. I think medical exemption. I'm dealing with all that shit. So what I'm trying to tell you guys, y'all call that man crazy. Y'all having conversations about this man's medical shit. You know, ain't that this whole TV show is a HIPAA violation? You understand? Stop. That's how powerful this shit is. They make the rules and they break the rules.
Okay.
So
listen, stop getting smacked by the Bluetooth PIMPHAND. We out. Peace.
Holla back.